Well, CBS News correspondent Tony Dokoupil is getting reaction to the DEA's marijuana decision. He is here in New York City. Tony, what are people saying on the street?
Hey, Anne-Marie. People in the general public have been dealing with marijuana as a Schedule I controlled substance since 1970. In that category, it was put in that category as a result of a decision by law enforcement, not doctors. At the time, in 1970, not that many people really cared because marijuana, believe it or not, wasn't a very popular drug. But fast forward about 46 years, 100 million Americans have tried marijuana at least once. Majority support legalization for recreational, and big majority support legalization for medical use. And so when you talk to people out here on the streets of New York or anywhere in the country, as I've done over the last few years, there is outright mystification, confusion, confoundment when it comes to the government's, at the federal level, the government's continued position that marijuana is a dangerous substance and the experience of so many Americans. So I caught up with some of those Americans just a few moments ago, and here's a little bit of what they had to say.
I think that it's been proven that marijuana has obvious medicinal purposes, and that I know a ton of people who do smoke, and I don't think that they're dangerous people. I think that it's a habit or a vice the same way alcohol is, and alcohol isn't deemed a dangerous or illegal drug. So
it should probably be less regulated, dealt with differently, more like tobacco or alcohol in general. Same concept. They're both gateway drugs to harder things. They're all equal in that sense. Instead of having a war on drugs, let's tax the crap out of it.
So your advice to the DEA is don't wait for the research, try some yourself.
Yeah, just try it, yo. Why not?
That's funny.
So Anne-Marie, I love that guy at the end, Carlos, the bike messenger. So Anne-Marie, the DEA has been at pains to point out that they've declined to reclassify marijuana out of that Schedule I category because there is no proven medical value. It's not a commentary on the danger, it's the medical value question. And that is true. The FDA has not deemed marijuana of medical use, but here's the confusing part. The plant itself is not considered to be of any medical value, but 2 chemical extracts from the plant do have FDA approval for treatment of medical conditions. So there's a funny distinction going on here that will hopefully be resolved. People who support marijuana legalization say hopefully be resolved as the DEA clears some of the hurdles that have prevented wider clinical scale, pharmaceutical scale research into what the plant itself may offer as a total entity. Anne-Marie.
Yeah, and Tony, we would be remiss if we did not mention that you have a very personal connection to this public debate.
That is true. One of the more interesting stories I ever pursued as a journalist was the story of my own family's epic career in the marijuana business. Called the Federal Archives and gave them my father's name, and they kicked back an indictment for a 17-ton job, 17 tons of marijuana dealt in 1986. So before marijuana was legal, before more than 20 states said A-OK, do it just for fun, do it for medicine, my father and my mother and a lot of other people in my family were keeping marijuana alive through the Reagan years. That was quite an interesting discovery. The really amazing thing, though, about the shift from 1970, as we were mentioning earlier, to today is in 1970, marijuana was really an out-of-sight small problem. Polls in the late 60s showed that very small numbers of college kids were using it. Then it doubled again, and now more than 100 million Americans, according to polls, have tried this drug at least once. So a big change. The government is no longer in a position, as they were in 1970, to declare facts about marijuana without running into people's perception in the general public that, hey, wait a minute, I know that drug you're mentioning, and I don't recognize those side effects or those issues at all. So yeah, fascinating personal discovery, and also one that tracks with the nation itself as it moves from deep skepticism about marijuana to more broader acceptance. Anne-Marie.
Yeah, very interesting. We may have to have your dad on here on CBSN and talk to him. Tony Dokoupil, thank you.
You bet.